Are you looking to build a food stockpile pretty quickly? I've got some tips and tricks for you so you can do that. Hey everyone, welcome to Homestead Corner. I'm Ginny, and today I wanted to talk about building your food stockpile quickly. We can still do this on a budget. We do not have to build our food storage. It doesn't have to be expensive or anything like that. I like to do the best I can to keep it as cheap as possible because food is definitely expensive. So making sure we're doing the best we can is really important, but we can still do that even on a limited budget. I think there are so many ways to go about this. So I put together just a few ideas of what I think is a great way to tackle this so you can build that food storage quickly and affordably. So one of the first things I like to look at when I'm thinking about food storage is why. Why do I want food storage? Why would we have that? And I think it's important to pin it down for each individual person because we all have different reasons of why we would have a food storage and have that in our home. And there are just so many different reasons. A lot of people will be planning for weather events, maybe a grid down situation, job loss, sickness. There are so many reasons. It could be an all-out collapse. You're definitely going to want something a lot larger for an all-out collapse. And having food storage, another reason is to save money. Having all the things you need in your food storage can save you a ton it will save you time and money from having to run out and pay full price for something when it's not on sale. So we like to make sure that we have all those things that we use on hand. So when we want to make something, we have all the ingredients, which is great. And it saves us time and money. So food storage can be for lots of different reasons, whether you're preparing for an event that could come up, or if you're just trying to save money, all of it is a great reason to have food storage. And the next thing is don't panic buy. You don't have to run out and buy everything today. A lot of times when we run out and we're like, I've got to build this up and I got to do it right now, really fast. We're buying things that we're not going to use. We think it's a great deal. Someone said that they like it and they keep it in their food storage, so we think we need it. But we really need to take a little bit of time when we're planning food storage and think about all the different aspects of it and make sure that we're making our food storage work for us. Just because someone else likes lentils or beans doesn't mean we do. And if we're not into eating those, I definitely wouldn't suggest having a huge stockpile. If there's something, allergies, anything like that, your likes, your wants, your needs, as far as proteins, things like that, we have to look at all those different aspects to really make sure that our food storage is tailored to us and our families. So sitting down and taking a little time to think about the why we want to have food storage and what kind of things do we want in there, making sure, writing out a plan, how do we plan on accomplishing this? Because it's not necessarily something you go out and buy 6 months worth of food today. You don't necessarily want to do that. We want to make sure we're making a plan of how we're going to do it and how it's going to work for our family. So I like to write things out. It really helps me, and it helps me think about, well, what about this or that? Or, do I have enough proteins, enough vegetables? Things like that. We really want to make a plan of how much do we want and how much food storage is right for us. Some people like to have 3 days worth of food in the house. That's their food storage. Other people want to have 4 weeks of food storage in their house. Or, it could be 6 months or 5 years. And it's different for each individual person. And it's going to be different depending on what you're planning for. So if you are planning for job loss, sickness, anything like that, a quick weather event that you maybe have the grid down for just a few days. It can be big events or small events. So having that food storage is going to help in many different situations, and just planning out what you think you're going to use your food storage for is really going to be helpful for you. And the next thing when you're thinking about food storage is do not take on debt. That is not going to help you at all. Figuring out a budget that works for you and your family is the best thing that you can do. If you have a set budget for your weekly food, then you can definitely take part of that, or even if you've got an extra $20 a week or a month, you can take that and specifically put it towards food storage. And once your food storage starts to build and you're rotating that, you're going to find that your food bill is going to go down. We found that right off. Once we started getting a decent supply, we noticed that that food bill went down because we have so many things already in the house. We know what we can make. And when I make out a menu, which is another great option for the week, I'll write out ideas for meals. Not necessarily are we going to have spaghetti on Tuesday or tacos on Wednesday. We may switch them. I may have tacos on Monday, but I write down the different meals that I want to have each week. And, you know, it can be any day. It's okay. But making sure we have all the ingredients for all those meals is really helpful. And going into your food storage and saying, okay, I have this, this, and this. I only need to get fresh tomatoes for this dish, or I only need to get fresh cream for this dish. So making sure what you have, so you're using that food storage, it's really going to help you save money, and your food storage is going to become so useful. You are going to love having it. So once we've decided how much food storage we want to have, what kind of events we're planning for it, things like that, I think the next thing to do is take inventory of what you already have in your house. If you already have 25 cans of tomatoes, how many do you actually need? Do you need only 12 or do you need 100? That's dependent on what your plan is. So making sure of what you have so you're not overbuying stuff. You want to make sure that if you are planning a 1-year storage and use 12 bottles of ketchup a year on average, one a month, then you're not stocking 100 bottles of ketchup that aren't going to last long enough for you to rotate through it. So we want to just make sure what we have, and we can build from there. So if we know we are low on proteins, but we have a lot of grains, rice, pasta, things like that, we can work on those proteins to get that up to the level that we want and have all the different things in our pantry that we need to have. And after you do inventory, I think it's real important to make a list of what you need or what you would like to add. If there are things that are missing, let's say you are planning to do a lot of baking and things like that, because breads are getting so expensive at the store, and bread is really easy to make at home. You can make your own biscuits, your own bread, whatever kind of stuff you want, your pizza crust. All of that is really easy to make at home. And I think it's important to, if you want to start doing that, you can make recipes that you can make ahead, put it in the freezer when you have time to make your meal times more simple. But making sure you have all those ingredients to do those things is important. So if you're not regularly baking and you want to start baking more, definitely make sure you have those items on your shelves. We also want to take into account that we have stuff for all areas of our pantry. A lot of people forget that stocking water can be extremely important. Having a supply of water stored away is definitely a necessity in my book, because if the grid goes down and you do not have water, especially if you live out in the country and the grid goes down, your well is probably not going to work if you have a well pump, because it requires electricity. If you don't have that, you want to make sure that you've got water. Or even if you're in the city, sometimes the water supply is disgusting and you cannot drink it. They have boil first orders, things like that. So you want to make sure that water is definitely definitely on the top of your list. And we can only store so much. The average person, they say to store different emergency places, your Red Cross, things like that. You need a minimum of a 1 gallon per day per person. If you're stocking 2 weeks for one person, you need a minimum of 14 gallons. Honestly, if you're having to wash dishes and wash yourself and clean things, you're going to have to boost that up to around 3 gallons a day per person. Because you go through a lot of water. And if you take a weekend where you use no water, you only use the water that you stored, that is a great way to test how much water you need. Even one day, that's going to give you a good idea of how much water to store. And water filters are important also, because I don't think we can store enough water, especially for a longer emergency. And a lot of times when we're looking at our food storage, we're thinking about everyday use, how we can save money, save time, have the things we need, but we also have to have those emergency foods also. When something happens, we may need them. If the grid goes down, you lose a job, you get sick for a month or 2. I've seen people get sick for a really long time, unfortunately, and it is really hard to get out to the store. You may not have anyone to go for you. In having all the stuff that you need for a month or so, I think is really important. But open and eat foods, the emergency just add water foods, things like that. And there's lots of stuff you can do yourself at home to save money and stock that pantry up. And I've got tons of videos on filling up that pantry on a budget, because I am all about the budget. We have a family of 6 and stuff is expensive. Another thing to look at when you're looking at food storage is your best by dates. They are not expiration dates. Your food is not going to drop dead one day. It's going to be just fine. A lot of times it will go 2, 3, 5, 10 years past the best by date. The best by date is there to tell you that this is when the food is the most nutritious. It's going to be in good condition, the same texture, stuff like that. When you start going past that, 5, 10 years past that, you may have some discoloration. You may have, the flavor might not be so pungent. It doesn't mean the food is bad though. The food is usually still good as long as it is sealed and stored properly. So we want to keep an eye on those best by dates, but we don't want to really stress out about them too much. I like to make sure we're rotating our food and make sure that we're eating the oldest food first. So if I find a can of green beans that got stuffed in the back and it's a weird odd date 3 years ago, I'm not just going to throw the green beans away. I'm going to check my can. If your can is squishy, it's not good. You should not be able to squeeze your can and dent it or anything like that with your hands. I have had cans do that, especially the pull top ones do not last as long. So making sure, I always squeeze my cans. I look around to see if there's any holes. Has it rusted through? Anything like that? If everything is intact and it looks good, I will definitely open it and give it a smell. Does it smell good? If it doesn't smell like green beans and it smells like tuna fish, then I'm not eating that. If it looks like tuna fish, I ain't eating that either. We want to make sure that we at least check our food, because I have had stuff 5 to 10 years over date that we have eaten and it was perfectly fine. So making sure to just check those. If you're scared of it and you don't dare to eat it, then I wouldn't eat it. But if it looks good, it smells good, and you're going to boil it anyway, you're going to be just fine. And another thing that we always do is make sure we are getting the best deal possible. I am not buying any meats or anything like that that are full price. I want to make sure that we're getting the best deal I can. So when chicken goes on sale, I buy a lot of chicken. When beef goes on sale, I buy a lot of beef. It depends. And, so when it's full price, I don't have to buy it. I can wait, use the stuff that I have. We're going to rotate through that, even in the freezer or anything like that. If you're canning your meat or freezing it, you want to keep that rotation going. And then when it's on sale again, you can stock up again, restock everything, and just keeping that going, it really saves you a ton of money. Using coupons, if you find them, once in a while our local grocery store will offer a coupon, $20 off an order of $75 or more. If I'm spending $75 anyway, I'll take that $20 off. Definitely look for those coupons if you can save. If you find a coupon, it's not something that you normally buy, don't use it. It's not helping you save money if you're not sure that you're going to love the product. So that's another thing that I think is really important. Coupons are wonderful, but don't just use any coupon because it's available. We want to make sure that we're putting things that our family likes and that we're going to use in our pantries. And lastly, with garden season coming up, it is a wonderful time to trade and barter. If you're really good at growing turnips, grow turnips. Grow a lot of them. Your neighbor might be really good at tomatoes. Maybe you can trade. You know, there's a lot of things. Talk to your neighbors. If they are into it as well, you can definitely do lots of trading and bartering. There's so many different things that we can trade and barter for, and that can also help us build our food storage, whether we're gardening with it or maybe we're not gardening at all, but we get a big load of carrots at a super good deal and one of our friends has something that we want. We can always trade part of that. So you've got carrots you can put up in your pantry, and whatever you trade for, you can put that up too. Herbs are wonderful because you've got free spices. They're medicinal. They are great for all sorts of things. So thinking outside of the box to get your food storage going, I think is a really big deal. It can save you a ton of money and can really help you build that food storage inexpensively. So I just wanted to talk about this with you guys today. A lot of people already do these things, but I think they are great for beginners and great reminders for people that have been doing it for years. We want to make sure our food storage is there for us and make sure it's working for us. So we want to make sure we've got all those things we need. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you next time. Bye.